All right guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are inside the shop with the E60 M5 and my BMW M4 right outside. And today, as you can see, we have some new wheels behind me. I'm gonna show you guys in just 1 second, but we are putting some new 19-inch wheels on the F82 M4. So you guys can see we have the E60 project over here. We've been working on this thing diligently, trying to get it back up to 100%. Honestly, it is looking so good right now. I'm super happy with this car and the purchase that we made. We just need to do a few more things like replace the windshield, get a new dash, and some stuff like that. So we are going to be working on this car and making some videos soon. Let me know what mods you guys want to see on the E60 M5. But right here we have our F82 M4, and we just recently installed a new carbon fiber wing on the back. As you guys can see, this thing is looking awesome. But with this track focus wing and carbon kit we have on here, I think it's time to put on some more track focus wheels and get rid of the 20-inch M competition wheels. So right here we have a new, to me, set of Apex EC7s, and these things look absolutely amazing. They already have tires mounted on them in the correct size for this F82 M4, and I picked these up for such an amazing deal. But we've got to quickly run and take one of these to the tire shop because we actually have a nail inside of one of these tires. It was something I knew was there when I bought them, but they were such a good deal that I just had to say yes anyway. So let's go ahead and grab the one with the nail in it. We're gonna take it in the back of the M4, head over to the tire shop, get it patched. We'll come back, install all 4 new Apex wheels and tires. All right, guys, we just got the nail taken out of the tire and it remounted and balanced. It was done at Les Schwab, and they actually do that for free. I don't know why I completely forgot about that. And I actually went to Discount Tire first, and they have some weird tool where they scan the profile of the tire and see what kind of wear is on it. And they wouldn't even fix the nail that was right in the center of the tire because one of the shoulders was slightly worn from camber wear, which is to be expected. They're used tires. So they literally only would sell me a new tire. They wouldn't do anything about it. I couldn't believe it because the tire didn't have wear in the middle. It's like has plenty of tread. It just has some shoulder wear. And they said, oh no, we won't work on that. We're just gonna sell you a new tire. So if you don't want to buy a new tire, then we can't help you. So I just left and went to Les Schwab, and they said, oh yeah, we'll have it done in 5 minutes. And they did it for free. So if you guys have a Les Schwab tires in your area, they will do flat repairs, nail fixes for free. So make sure you guys keep that in mind if you ever have to get a nail taken out of your tire. But we got the wheel in the back. It's actually one of the rears, so it's one of the wider ones, and we're heading back to the shop. We're gonna get these thrown on. We're also gonna get the M4 washed because there is a ton of hard water stains on the side of it. I parked it outside and it got absolutely wrecked by the sprinklers, so I need to do something to take care of that. All right guys, so we got all 4 wheels and tires ready to go. This one has the nail taken out of it and it is pumped up, holding air, so we should be good to go. So let me explain to you guys what this set is. Some of you might know already, but this is a set of Apex EC7 wheels. These are finished in their brushed silver, and I think they look amazing. These are the fronts and these are the rears. These are a 19 by 10.5 with a 44 offset. These are a 19 by 9.5 with a 25 offset. So this actually is a perfect order to spec with no spacers size for the F82 M4 and F80 M3. In the rear, we have a 275/35, and in the front, we have a 255/35. So this is the exact stock size of 19-inch wheels that come factory on the M4, but with a little bit better offset, so they should fit really good. So these are perfect wheels and tires for the M4. We do need to wash the car though. So let's get the garage opened up, get the car washed, and then we will get these thrown on there. All right, guys, we got the M4 pulled in. It's all cleaned up. Let's go ahead and dry it off, and then we'll get it put up on the quick jack so we can install our new Apex wheels. All right, guys, so real quickly, I want to talk about how we're going to double check the fitment. I want to make sure that both the front and the rear is going to have pretty similar fitment to what I have now, but I also want to know if it would be better to add a spacer or not. So what we're going to do is go to willtheyfit.com, and we're going to enter all of the dimensions of our current wheel. So right now we have a 20-inch wheel, and we're just going to start with the rear. So the rears are a 10-inch wide with a 40 offset, and then we have a 15 millimeter spacer. So what we can do is actually take away that 15 millimeters from this. We're going to end up with a 25 offset. The rear tire right now is a 285/30. The set we're going with is a 19. The rear is a 10.5 with a 44 offset, and we have a 275/35. We're gonna hit calculate, and that is actually gonna update this diagram right here and show us the dimensions and specs of our new and old wheels and tires. So it looks like the new ones are gonna be inset just about 15 millimeters from where we have it right now. So assuming that we put this back to stock right here, we would actually have the exact same wheel fitment. Our current 20-inch wheels and our new 19-inch wheels are almost the exact same fitment. So what we're actually going to do is add the 15 mil spacer to the rear so that we have the exact same fitment. So assuming we add the 15 mil spacer in the rear, and we have the 15 mil spacer right now with our current wheel setup and our new wheel setup, and everything should be just about the same. It'll be about 2 millimeters out farther, and the inset is actually going to be a little bit poked in more. We should still have clearance with the strut because this setup will work even if we take this away and say no spacer. This original competition wheel is actually more inset than our new wheel. So either way, with or without spacers, it should work just fine. But with the spacers, we should get the exact same fitment in the rear. Now we're gonna do the same thing in the front, and I'm gonna see if we need to do a spacer in the front. All right, so now that we've calculated the front, including the spacer, and the new front with no spacer, these look almost exactly the same. So our poke is gonna be about the same outside of the wheel. So we're actually going to leave the front with no spacer on it, and it should be just fine. So let's go ahead and get the wheels taken off the car. We'll get the new ones put on with the 15 mil spacer in the rear and none in the front. All right, so actually after doing some more calculations, it looks like we can run the spacer in the front, and the only thing that's gonna stick out just a little bit more is the bottom edge of the tire, because these ones are a little bit more stretched on the front. I think we should be good to run both the same spacers that we have right now on our new setup. All right, guys, we got the M4 in the air up on the quick jacks, as you guys can see, but it is so hot in here. It is about 100 degrees outside, and the AC unit that I have right here, basically a swamp cooler, is not keeping up. So I am dying in here, but we are gonna go ahead and get the stock wheels removed, and we'll get our new Apex wheels with the same 15 mil spacer in the rear and 12.5 mil spacer in the front. And we'll see how that fitment is. We'll put the car down, test it out, see if we can make that work. Oh my gosh, I just slipped the holes. Get one of these put in there. Man, those look good. I already can tell. These are gonna look freaking sick. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the driver's side rear. Well, as you guys can see, this rear is absolutely toast. That camber wear and also from drifting and sliding has absolutely worn this inside shoulder completely out, and the cords are showing through, so these rears are absolutely dead. It really sucks because these were only on the car for about 6 months. Obviously, you guys can tell I drive this thing pretty hard and absolutely destroyed this inside of this tire. So This thing's done. These are coming off, and our used tires are going on. They're not perfect, but they definitely have a lot more life than these, and they'll be a lot cheaper to replace in the future. So as you guys can see, these have a decent amount of tread in the middle, but this outside edge is a little bit worn. It seems like they were probably on a lowered F80 or F82 car and did wear away the shoulder. There is something you can do about that. You need to get a new rear control arm so that you can adjust the camber in and out, and when your car goes low, it naturally gains some camber, so you can actually get arms to adjust that back out and be more flat. So definitely something I'm looking at, and I think we should do pretty soon here. So I do also have a set of red center caps that you guys saw on my other Apex EC7s. If you guys don't remember, I actually have a set of 18-inch version of these wheels, but they're just in all black, but they have the red center caps. I do like the look of the red center caps, but I'm not sure if it would match the brakes or not, so I think I'm gonna leave the black for now, and maybe in the future, if we get our brakes refinished, we can throw on the red ones. All right, I also think these are gonna be absolutely perfect. They look so good right there on the rear. So before we put on the other side, I'm actually going to lower the car down so I can see how the fitment is with the spacers. I'm a little bit worried in the front that the shoulder is gonna be a little bit too wide on that tire, but let's go ahead and lower this thing down for the first time, and we will see how these wheels fit with the spacers. Man, that looks tough. Woo! This is definitely closer in the front, and we'll have to check our lock-to-lock clearance and see if we rub on the fender liner. Oh my gosh, this rear looks so good. That fitment is absolutely perfect. Oh man, guys, I'm actually hyped about this. So let's go ahead and take a look from above. Just a teeny bit of poke on the front, not too bad. I think we maybe could go down to a 10 mil, depending on if we have any rubbing issues. And then the rear here, oh my gosh, that is absolutely perfect fitment. Flush with the fender, wheel on the bottom poking out just a little bit so you can see the rear tire. Man, that looks so good. Oh my gosh, this thing is gonna be so sick with these new wheels. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get this thing back up in the air. We'll move over to the passenger side and we will get the rest of the wheels installed. All right, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and get these other wheels and tires off, starting with this passenger front tire. While I have this wheel off, I'm gonna go ahead and check the brake depth. I've been able to look at this outside one and I can tell it's getting pretty low, but the inside one hasn't triggered the light yet. But, oh, the inside one is a little bit thicker than this outside one, so I'm guessing I'm gonna have to replace these in the next few thousand miles. All right, front's on. Let's go ahead and move on to the rear. All right, guys, we got the M4 outside and this thing looks so good. Oh my gosh, check out those silver Apex wheels. They look so good in the sun right here. I honestly cannot believe how good these turned out. Let's go ahead and get some beauty shots of these new wheels. Guys, we got the car completely done. It looks so good, honestly, with this new wing, the new wheels, the full carbon kit, lowered everything. This car has turned out so sick and I'm so happy with the build. I really think the last thing this needs is a full body wrap to change the color and really make this thing stand out. Let me know down below what wrap color you guys think I should do to the F82 M4. So while we were under the car, I was able to inspect the front brake and the rear brakes. It does look like we are gonna need to replace the front brakes pretty soon, and I also noticed noticed one major issue on this car that we're gonna have to fix super soon, because this is a major failure that happens to all pre-LCI F80s and F82s, and that is the rear diff bushing. If you guys have not heard, the rear diff bushing is notorious for cracking on the early generation F80s and F82s, and they actually updated it to a different style rear diff bushing in the 2018 and up F82s and F80s. So we have the old style rear diff bushing, and while I had the car up in the air, I just took a peek at it and it is cracked. So we are gonna need to replace that. I've kind of known that was coming up, so I preemptively ordered a new diff bushing and we have it here. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready to install that rear diff bushing. It's gonna be a ton of work. We're actually gonna have to drop the diff out of the rear of the car. So I'm gonna be watching some YouTube videos, freshen up my memory on the full install of the diff bushing. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing back in the shop and start work on the rear diff bushing. Tonight, we're gonna head out with the M4, take it and go get some beauty shots of this thing out during this beautiful sunset with the new wheels. And then tomorrow we'll be coming back so we can work on the rear diff bushing, and I'll also be ordering the front brakes so we can get those done soon as well. But this thing looks amazing, so let's go ahead and head out and get some shots of this thing out on the street. All right, guys, it has been a few days. We are back at the shop. We have the M4 here with the new wheels and they look sick. I hope you guys enjoyed those shots of the M4 with the new wheels. But now it is time to get into the maintenance that we're gonna be doing in today's video. I ended up ordering the front brake and an oil change kit along with the rear diff bushing. So we're gonna go ahead and get those done on the M4 right now. I was trying to make sure to do maintenance before mods, but in this case, we're kind of doing them at the same time. Let's go ahead and start by showing you guys the maintenance items that we're gonna be doing in today's video. So over here on the table, we have a set of brake pads. I actually went with a set of ceramic brake pads. These are supposed to be a low dust pad, and that will help us cut down on that brake dust that we have from the massive brakes on the front of the M4. With the silver wheels, it's a bad combo. So we definitely want to go to these low dust brake pads, and we'll see how those do. Right here, we have a regular 5W40 oil change kit with a filter, and right here we have the rear diff bushing. I actually went for the LCI style bushing, which is just an updated version. They went from a rubber to a like polyurethane and foam version, but these don't have any issues with cracking, so we're just gonna be swapping this out in today's video. These are pretty simple, and this is actually gonna be a ton of work. We're gonna have to drop the rear diff out of the rear of the M4 to get access to it. So let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll get this car taken apart. All right, guys, we already got the other side replaced. I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly explain to you what I'm doing. This is a super easy brake change to do on F80 M3s and F82 M4s or any other the M Sport style brakes that have the same drop-in style brake pad. So these are really easy because there's just two pins right here. We're basically just gonna knock those both out of the back. This clip is gonna come out, and then what we're gonna need to do is compress in each of these sides so that we can fit the new brake pad in. So all I kind of do is just use some pressure with a screwdriver and push this old brake pad against the caliper and compress those pistons inward, and then we'll have enough space to drop in our new brake pads. On the other side, there was a brake wear sensor. On this right side, there's not one. So we're just gonna be replacing these brake pads by knocking these pins out, getting some space in there for the new pads, and then pulling the whole thing out. All right, guys, it has been a couple days, but we are back working on the M4. I actually bought a new car, so I took a couple days off to enjoy that. You guys will see that in the next video, so comment down below, what car do you think I just bought that is replacing my M340i? And yes, I am keeping the M4 and the E60 M5, so we now have 3 cars. I will let you guys know it is a BMW. We have 3 BMWs in the garage, so comment down below what you guys think it is. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video when we release the new car. So we're now moving back onto working on the M4, and the last thing you guys saw we did was install the front brakes, and now we're moving on to the rear diff bushing. So I kind of want to explain what that is. I'm going to go ahead and go under the car and show you guys the rear diff bushing and show you where it's cracked, and then we're going to go ahead and drop the entire rear subframe, get the diff out, everything out of the rear end so that we can go ahead and replace that bushing. So let's go under the car and I'll show you guys what that looks like. All right, guys, so coming underneath the rear of the car here, you can see the exhaust, and then we have this rear differential right here. This is being held in by this bushing, and you guys can actually see that it's cracked all the way across there. So this single bushing holds in this diff using this bracket right here to spread out the load, and they actually ended up replacing these with a different material in the newer years. So we're going to be doing that today, but that means we have to get this entire subframe out of the bottom end, which means removing the exhaust, drive shaft, and everything else associated with this subframe. We can drop it out of the car. So now that you guys know what the diff bushing looks like, you guys can look out for that on your F80 or F82 M3 or M4, and this is specifically for the pre-LCI cars. So before 2018, so that is 2014 through 2017, they actually used a just regular rubber bushing, and they eventually ended up replacing it with these polyurethane bushings. So we're going to be swapping this out to the updated bushing, and these are not known for cracking at all, and it should drive and feel the exact same. There are some upgrade kits you can do in order to stiffen up the rear diff by adding a double bushing setup with a new bracket, but I think those are a little bit overkill, especially for a street car. If you are running a track car and you do full arms in the rear, solid bushings, I think at that point, yeah, you probably want to stiffen up your diff, but from what I've heard, you get a lot of diff whine and a lot of road noise when you do those double diff bushing brackets. I'm just going to be swapping it out for the OEM LCI style diff bushing. So let's go ahead and pull out the GoPro. We're going to put this thing on a time lapse, and you guys can see me remove everything from underneath the car in order to get that diff bushing out. All right, guys, it has been a couple hours of just grinding away on the bottom of this car, and we have so much removed. We have the full exhaust right here, the brake rotors, and we have a ton of other stuff over on the side of the car. We're now ready to drop the subframe. So we actually had to remove a ton of stuff, and I'm gonna show you guys everything that we had to remove in order to get to this point. So as you guys can see back here, we had to completely disassemble the brakes on both sides in order to get to this e-brake cable, which runs up into the car and needs to be disconnected so that this whole system can drop, as well as hanging the brake calipers so that those can stay connected to the car and we don't lose any brake fluid. We also disconnected the shock from the car so that as the subframe is lowered down, the shock, the spring, and everything on this side, including the suspension and hubs, all drop down together. We also had to disconnect all of the electrical connectors, so anything that went from the body of the car over to the suspension, that's disconnected. And then underneath, we had to take off the exhaust, all of the under trays, and even disconnect the drive shaft. We're gonna be pulling the drive shaft, the diff, and the rear suspension and subframe all out together. So let's go ahead. So it is finally time to drop this rear subframe. We're gonna get a jack underneath there and remove all 4 subframe bolts. And theoretically, if I didn't forget anything, this whole entire subframe should lower down out of the rear and come out of the car so we can go ahead and get the rear diff bushing replaced, and it'll be a lot easier with it fully out of the car. There's a bunch of other tutorials online of people lowering the subframe halfway and doing it underneath the car, but with quick jacks and without having a full height lift, it honestly seems like so much work to be laying on my back while trying to get that diff bushing out. So I wanted to remove the entire subframe with the diff and everything together so we can do it outside of the car and have all this room out here to install that new bushing. So let's go ahead and get the jack underneath the car. We're gonna disconnect those subframe bolts and everything should come down together. I also wanted to show you guys, I do have some jack stands right here underneath the front of the quick jacks just to add a little bit of stability, because we're gonna be taking all of the weight off the rear, and this engine, where all the weight is on the front, is hanging in front of the quick jacks. So my worry would be if we remove too much weight from the rear that this thing could potentially tip forward. We have these in place just in case that is gonna happen. It'll stop it from tilting too much. And I already tested that out by kind of jacking up the rear just to see what would happen, and everything seems like it's fine. It stops on these and keeps it from tipping over. So let's go ahead under the car. We're gonna get these subframe bolts out and lower everything out of the rear. All right, so the subframe bolts are an E18. It's a little bit of a strange size. So it's gonna be one that you're gonna wanna make sure you have on hand to get these subframe bolts out. So the goal here is to start lowering these subframe bolts down and the subframe stay where it is. And then when I lower the jack, everything comes down together. Those bolts are weirdly kind of wet. They have a ton of rust on them. I'm not sure why. All right, all 4 subframe bolts are out. So the only thing holding this up now is the jack. So now we're gonna be really, really careful as we slowly lower this thing down. Don't want it to tip. Don't want anything to snag. Okay, both sides are kind of hanging now. Let's go around, double check nothing's gonna get caught up. I don't want to move this brake a little bit. So far, so good. Just double checking if there's any lines or anything kind of hanging. And oh, yep, there's one that I missed. That is a ground strap right there. Luckily, I stopped. That got too stretched out, but I'm gonna grab a 10 mil and then try and get that out. All right, ground strap is off. Everything else looks clear. Let's keep lowering this thing down. Just kind of routing these e-brake cables, making sure that they're not gonna get snagged on anything on their way out. Pretty much clear. And that is a rear subframe on the ground. Awesome. So one thing I didn't really think about is that the height of these shocks is not really gonna clear this back bumper. I'm probably gonna have to disconnect these bottom bolts right here in order to pull this whole subframe out as one unit. Grab some sockets and figure out what size this lower suspension bolt is. Lower shock bolt, that is an 18, and the other side is also an 18. Oh, well, without loosened, honestly, that might clear, but we'll just go ahead and take it all the way out since I got this bolt out anyway. Already disconnected the electrical connector, and then I'm actually just gonna slide this bolt back in so I know the orientation and I know exactly where it went. Let's move over to the other side. This cover. All right, now we have plenty of clearance. We're just gonna pull the jack, pull this entire rear subframe out of the car. Whew, that was so much work. It was fairly straightforward. There was nothing really that confusing other than releasing the e-brake. You actually have to go inside and release the e-brake handle so there's no tension on the cable on the outside, and that will let you release these inner e-brake spreaders is what they're called. We're able to get pretty much everything out without really looking anything up. It's all just straightforward. The bolts you see are what you need to remove. The only thing that was kind of confusing was the e-brake, but we got everything else out. Now that we have this subframe out, I can show you guys even better the rear diff bushing. So you guys can see this bolt right here, actually what holds in the rear diff, using this bracket right here, and that bolt just goes right through and it actually sandwiches it with this rubber piece, and you can actually see, this will focus, that part of that right there is cracked. It's cracked on this side, and sooner or later it would crack all the way around and this whole thing would just start banging around. I could definitely hear it already, even with just that little hairline crack all the way around. So I'm really glad that I didn't let it get much worse, and now we can go ahead and start disassembling this rear subframe in order to get the bushing puller tool and and push that bushing out of the subframe. So one really cool thing about this whole setup right here that you might have noticed is this drive shaft right here. This does not look like a traditional two-piece steel drive shaft that you would see in most BMWs. This is actually a full factory carbon fiber drive shaft that is OEM to BMW, and it was only in the F80s and F82s 2015 to 2017. In 2018, they went back to a regular metal drive shaft, and they did not have this carbon drive shaft. So it's kind of interesting because you get the better drive shaft and the crappier bushing, but if you got it at 2018 instead of this 2017, you'd get the crappier drive shaft, but the better bushing. So pretty interesting. You know, you're going to kind of pick one or the other. It's not like the metal drive shafts have any issues or anything like that, but these carbon drive shafts are significantly lighter, which does take some weight off of the drivetrain and is something you feel in the car. And I've heard from people who have switched from the LCI metal drive shaft to the carbon one, it's significant, and you do notice it, especially revving the car and things like that. It revs up significantly quicker. It's like having a lightweight flywheel because it's just less mass that the motor has to spin before it gets to the wheels. All right, guys, that has been 1 second for you, but it has been a couple days for me. I actually found out that the bushing puller tool that I had did not fit the rear diff bushing, so I had to order a new one. And after doing a little bit more research, it looks like that LCI bushing is going to be a little bit harder to install than I thought. Let me go ahead and explain. So right here we have the LCI bushing that I was going to install in the rear subframe to support the diff and replace that cracked one. The reason we can't use this is this actually requires a special tool to install in the rear subframe. So I went ahead and ordered a Powerflex purple rear diff bushing. This should be very similar to stock, but because of the two-piece design and because they're actually a lot smaller in diameter, as you guys can probably tell, it's just slightly smaller. They're a lot easier to put in, and you can press these in by hand without a special tool, one from the front and one from the back. So I'm going to be returning this, and we are going to be using this purple Powerflex bushing. I got both of these from FCP Euro, so luckily they have a lifetime replacement guarantee, so I can go ahead and just send this back. The other thing we ended up needing to get is this bushing puller tool. Like I said, I didn't have one that fit the exact size, and I didn't want to risk messing up the rear subframe, so I went ahead and ordered this on Amazon. It was about 90 bucks. Go ahead and link it below, and it does have the correct size. So we're going to be using one of these pulling tools in order to remove the factory rear diff bushing and replacing it with this purple Powerflex bushing. So let's go ahead and get the stock bushing removed, and we will get this new one in. All right, guys, now that we have this bushing puller tool installed, I wanted to show it to you a little bit closer. We're using this smaller one on the outside to push this bushing into this cup right here. So this cup is bigger than the actual bushing and is around touching the subframe. This one is smaller than this hole so that it can push through. We're going to use a wrench, tighten this side slowly. We'll get it all the way down and it should pop through. If I had a little bit of a shorter one, then I maybe could use the impact on this and get it done really quick, but I also don't want to damage the inside of here. So we're going to be watching it really careful, making sure it goes straight, slowly tightening this down until it pushes that bushing all the way out. All right, guys, I had to switch out this one right here because I was using one that was a little bit too big and it started to mark up the inside of the subframe. I don't want that to happen. So I went down to a 66 millimeter size, and this one is absolutely perfect. So as you guys can see right here, this is the bushing coming out, and as this goes in, it's pushing that side out. So let me go ahead and pull this a couple times. And every time I do that, you guys can see that that bushing is just slowly coming out. So we're just going to keep doing this, cranking over and over, double checking that this isn't marking up the inside. We'll back it off a little bit every once in a while. Just push that all the way into the bushing is all the way out. All right, guys, that worked absolutely perfect, and this bushing came out with absolutely no issues, and you guys can see this thing up close, how cracked it is all the way across. And if I kept driving this thing anymore, this eventually just would have completely tore out, and my diff would have been clunking super bad. But as you guys can see, we didn't damage the hole at all. This little bit of flaking is just some paint, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up with some Scotch-Brite and just make sure there's no chunks or anything in there, and then we will put in the new bushing. All right, guys, the bushing we're gonna install is actually 4 pieces, and it comes with grease. So we're gonna use the grease on the outside of both of these pieces. This one faces the rear of the car, and it goes like that with this shaft right in the middle. So this shaft is going to go slide through after you put both bushings in the subframe, and then this cap right here is going to capture everything, and the bolt is going to go straight through that way into the diff. So let's go ahead and get these parts greased up. We'll get them into the subframe. All right, guys, we got the bushing and the center section in. The next thing we're going to do is reinstall this diff bracket onto the back of the diff so we can jack the diff up and line it up with this hole right here and get the bolt through this rear bushing into that mount, into that diff. Let's go ahead and get this back together. All right, as you guys just saw in the time lapse, we just got the subframe lifted up in place and all 4 bolts in. So now I can take this jack out and the subframe should not fall out of the car. There we go. Rear subframe is reinstalled. We need to reinstall the rear shocks and then button up all the electrical connectors, reinstall the brakes, reconnect the e-brake lines, and every miscellaneous thing down here. All right, guys, we got the M4 completely back together. The entire rear subframe, suspension, brakes, and the exhaust is in, as well as all the under trays. So we are ready to go ahead and get this thing off the jack. But first, there's one thing I want to do, which is change the oil. I haven't had a chance to do that yet because I didn't want to get the exhaust too hot before having to take it off. Now everything's back together. We're going to start the car up, let it warm up. We'll change the oil, and then we'll be ready to take this thing out and show you guys these new wheels, and we'll go take this thing on a rip and see how it feels with the new diff bushing. All right, we're gonna let this warm up for a second, then we'll change the oil. All right, guys, while we wait for the oil to drain before we fill it back up, I'm gonna go ahead and use the Autel to plug into the computer, reset the brake service and reset the oil service. So that way I don't have a light, and also you can check how long ago the service was done on the dash. So let's go ahead and plug in with this. We will get the service intervals updated on the computer. All right, guys, we got the oil change done, the diff bushing replaced, we got our new wheels on, and this thing is ready to rock. So let's go ahead and get this thing lowered down. We're gonna pull it outside. After we wash this thing, we're gonna head up to the mountains and check out this thing with a beautiful fall colored backdrop in the Utah mountains. Let's go ahead and get this thing cleaned up, and we'll head up the canyon so you guys can see this thing in its full glory. All right, guys, we are out here in one of the Utah canyons with the M4 and the new wheels, and it looks insane. We have the new diff bushing in, and actually I can tell a huge difference. So if you guys have a 2015 through 2017, make sure you guys replace your diff bushing because they do crack, and I could totally tell a difference. So this thing is looking so good now. We have the full carbon kit, carbon fiber front lip, side skirts, rear diffuser, and the wing, along with the OEM carbon mirrors and the roof, and it is looking so sick now with these new wheels. I'm actually so happy about this thing. But let me know down down below what you guys want to see next. What mod should we do next? I'm thinking maybe seats or a full color change on this thing. It is coming together though, and I'm so happy with this build that's turned out. But thank you guys so much for checking out today's video. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button so you guys don't miss the new car we just bought. That's going to be the next video. But just like that, this one's over. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.